Hey guys, welcome to this battle report. Tonight we've got 1750 points of Khorne Daemonkin Vs Orks. Now this is going to be the first battle of the Battle of 8 Armies tournament. If you want to know more about what that is, then check out the link in the description. If you're not interested or you already know, basically it's just going to play like a normal 1750 battle. It's just part of an ongoing thing. So either way, I hope you enjoy the battle. Sam's using his Khorne Daemonkin and I'm using my Evil Sun's Cult of Speed Orks. Mission is cleanse and control, so it's 3 objectives each and draw up to 3 objectives again at the start of each turn. And as you can see, it's Vanguard Strike deployment, and we're playing on my new Realm of Battle table. This is actually the first time I've got a chance to play on my new table, so should be good. We've got a fair amount of urban ruins and some barricades strewn around the battle here. Orks won the roll-off to deploy first, and have deployed in basically a long line across the front here. With the limited frontage and quite a lot in this army, it was a little bit of a squeeze. But basically I've got 2 mobs of truck boys with sluggers choppers down here. Then I've got my tank busters trying to get a fairly central position so that the Khorne Daemonkin couldn't place too much out of their range. Then in the centre I've got my hard-hitting hammer unit, my war boss and his mega armoured knobs in their battle wagon with the big mech. Another mob of boys with slugger chopper in their truck. Then over this side I've got 2 mobs of boys with shooters and 2 mobs of bikes. I've left my death copters in reserve and they're going to be attempting to outflank. As for Sam's army, as he discussed in the Tactica video earlier, he's left practically all his troops in reserves. 5 units of Bloodletters, a Herald and a Demon Prince, all starting off the table. What he has got is a Bloodthirster that he very carefully placed at the back, making sure he was outside of the threat range of the tank busters, because despite being a Bloodthirster, he's actually a little bit scared. He's got his Possessed in the ruins here, looking to defend that objective. In this old Manufactorum, you can see the Soul Grinder there, or the first of his Soul Grinders. And behind that, hidden away, is a unit of 3 Blood Crushers. And then over on this side, on the extreme end of his deployment, is another Soul Grinder. Both of these have the Torrent Flamer, which is quite a threat to the Orks actually. He's also deployed 2 units of Flesh Hounds, which then took their scout moves, both moving up to claim those objectives should they come up, and getting as close as they can to kind of delay the Ork advance. That's the deployment. Orks should have first turn, but Sam's going to have a go at stealing the initiative. It's a 1. Nope, so Ork turn 1. So, Ork turn 1. I grabbed the loot, which I rolled a 6 for, so I had to score objective 6. I got secure objective 2, and also no prisoners. So I had to kill a unit and grab those 2 objectives. Now the problem with objective 2 is it's right up on the top floor here, and we are playing that you would need to get up a floor to get to that. And all my guys really wanted to stay in the trucks, so I wasn't able to score that one. But objective 6 I was able to grab by this truck moving up the flank and turbo boosting. A little bit close to those Flesh Hounds, but you know, I'm still in my truck, so we're safe for now. Most of the army just moved forward. This truck turbo boosted. This one didn't need to, it just moved into range fire at the Flesh Hounds, but they made all the saves. Main action was the tank busters. At the time they shot, they had a clear line of sight to yonder Skull Crusher, a Soul Grinder even, and put 2 hull points on it actually. He failed both his invuln saves there, but wasn't able to do anything more, and it still got 2 hull points to go. These 2 trucks were able to shoot at the Skull Crushers, the Juggernaut Riders in the building there. Can't really see them, but they did have line of sight. And then I moved up this battle wagon to try and get as far forward as possible, ready for the guys to charge next turn. Bikes swung round the flank and are sitting on that objective in case they need it later. But yeah, didn't really do a lot. Most of my shooting just pinged off the Fleshhounds, and so it was only the 2 hull points on there. But I did manage to score grab the loot for objective 6, so that's 1 point. And I'm going to discard secure objective 2 because I really haven't got the time to focus on climbing that building. So that's gone, and I'll get 2 new ones next turn. So Orcs take an early lead, but we weren't able to score first blood. On to Khorne Daemonkin, turn 1. So, as you can expect, straight out of the block, the Khorne Daemonkin were looking to get into combat. Unfortunately, Sam had a pretty poor go with his objectives. He had Hungry for Glory, which meant he had to issue a challenge. Unfortunately, all my dudes were still in transport, so that was going to be easier said than done. And he had to secure Objective 1. Objective 1 is right over here in the Orc backfield, so yeah, that wasn't going to be easy. But where they couldn't score objectives, they could certainly do damage. Both of the Soul Grinders fired up their baleful torrents. This one did a whole point to that truck and killed 5 dudes from inside. And this one did a whole point to the battle wagon, scored a penetrating hit on the looted truck, and killed 5 of the tank busters inside, so serious work there, but the real damage came in the assault phase. Bloodthirster charged into this truck, wrecked it. Thankfully it didn't explode and the surviving boys were able to get out. Fleshhounds made combat against this truck, did take a wound on the way in from Overwatch, but somehow managed to leave it with just 1 hull point left. He was really hoping to blow that up, but alas, that truck's still there. Over here, the second pack of Fleshhounds made it into combat with the tank busters and caused their truck to explode. Lost another tank buster in the process and did a wound to the Fleshhounds. And the Blood Crushers made it into combat with the battle wagon and did 2 more hull points to it, leaving it on only 1 left. It's also down to only snap firing up next turn. So, all in all, he didn't do as much devastation as he could have done. I mean, I could have lost 4 vehicles rather than 2 there, and he didn't score any points apart from first blood. But the demons have made combat and are starting to break down the Orcs' transports. On to Orc, turn 2. Okay, start of Orc turn 2. I drew Hungry for Glory and Secure Objective 3. Both of these were pretty good objectives because we've both got a lot of combat characters, and Objective 3 was right in the middle of the board there. Started with my reserves coming on, my Deathcopters, fired at this Skull Crusher, Soul Grinder. I always get that name wrong. Unfortunately, they failed to actually kill it, and then I charged him with a mob of bikes, hoping they'd do some damage. The Knob managed to take 1 hull point off for no damage in return. Soul Grinder somewhat woofed his attacks there, but at least he's tied up for a turn now. In other news, I pulled this truck back to hold that objective, although I didn't need to score it this turn. I know Sam's holding on to secure objective 1 and has a lot of deep strike reserves coming, so I didn't want to risk losing that and giving that to him. Now, in the middle here, the bikes, the truck and the tank busters fired on the Fleshhounds, eventually wiped them out through their combined weight of fire, and the war boss got out of his battle wagon and him and his boys charged into the Blood Crushers and wiped them out without breaking a sweat. They failed the fear test, it didn't even matter. They just came in and power clawed them all to death. And now down here, I needed to issue a challenge and I needed to deal with that Bloodthirster. And so I managed to wangle all 3 mobs of boys into charge range. Now, I've been very fortunate in this game. I rolled move through cover as move through cover on ruins and stealth on ruins as my secondary warlord trait for the thinking cap. And this meant that I was able to get 2 of the 3 charges off onto the Bloodthirster. So this little reduced mob of boys and this mob of boys. Then declared a challenge because I was hungry for glory, and one of the knobs ended up fighting one-on-one with the Bloodthirster. Now, the knob didn't do anything. He fluffed his attacks because this thing is weapon skill 10, but the sheer weight of attacks from the boys put 3 out of the Bloodthirster's 4 remaining wounds onto him. So he's living with just 1 wound. Obviously, he killed the knob, but I was fortunate. I passed my leadership test on both squads, so we're pinning him down there, and he's down to 1 wound. So that Bloodthirster is not having a good day, despite one of the mobs failing to get in. It was a bit risky, but I think it's worked well enough. As for points, managed to score all 3. Unfortunately, didn't score enough kills to get a double or to get a D3 roll on no prisoners, but that's 3 points scored for me. Now things could get a little bit more interesting because the Daemonkin reserves are all due to come on. He's got 5 units of Bloodletters and a Demon Prince, and he's going to get some new objectives. So on to Chaos, turn 2. Okay, so Khorne Daemonkin started their turn with a huge amount of reserves coming along, as expected. Sam managed to link up his chaining his reserves trick, where essentially he rolled for 1 unit, the Herald, and his attached unit of Bloodletters. Because of the Herald, they were able to re-roll their reserve roll, which they needed to do to get in, but then their instrument allowed them to pull in another unit. He then rolled 2 more units with musicians and got both of them in, and allowed both of them to pull in another unit each. So he's effectively summoned 5 units of Bloodletters, a Herald and a Demon Prince, all back here in the Orc table end. So yeah, huge amounts of reserves to deal with there. Also, he'd saved up enough Blood Tide points to pull out this bad boy, 1 Skull Cannon of Khorne, which proceeded to open up on these boys here, wreck their truck, kill their knob, and send them running for the table edge. So very good start there to the turn. Now as for objectives, he was holding on to Hungry for Glory and score objective 1. Unfortunately, dropping the Demon Prince down on objective 1 does him no good because that truck is troops and therefore objective secured. Hungry for Glory was get a challenge, and he also drew Blood God's Scorn, which means he has to kill either a Psyker or a fleeing unit. So, obviously the Bloodletters having no shooting, they just spread out, and the 1 unengaged Skull Cannon managed to take a hull point. No, it didn't manage to kill a bike with its Baleful Torrent. That was the one that was over there. But combat was really where it was at. This Soul Grinder charged into the War Boss's mob. They failed their fear test and then lost 3 guys to the Soul Grinder's attacks. But then the unit hit back hard and wrecked it. The other Soul Grinder, I will always get those mixed up, managed to kill the remaining 2 bikes, but the knob from the squad survived long enough to blow that up and then survive the explosion. So that's 2 Soul Grinders down. Now down here, the Fleshhounds and the Possessed charged into the Orcs that were engaged with the Bloodthirster and inflicted huge casualties. This squad is down to 1 member and this squad's down to 4, but there were enough Orcs left that with some lucky rolling we were able to take down the Bloodthirster. So yeah, Orc boys have officially taken down a Bloodthirster. Nice work, lads. I then got jammy and managed to roll 1 for my mob rule result, which is if the unit's engaged in combat, it holds. So both those units have decided to hold, despite being surrounded by demons. End of the turn, he did manage to score Hungry for Glory, because his Possessed champion issued a challenge. But other than that, there really wasn't much to be scored, so he discarded Blood God's Scorn. So with the Khorne Daemonkin having first blood and 1 point, and the Orcs having 4 objectives, it's 4-2 to the Orcs as we head into Orc turn 3. So for Orc turn 3, I had 3 location-based objectives, score 1, 6 and 4. So got number 1 down here with the Demon Prince, nice and easy. I just nudged that truck over because that's objective secured, the Demon Prince isn't, so that is that. Now, objective 6, again, I was able to grab nice and easily in the movement phase, just back this truck up over to sit next to it. And that's that. Objective 4, right over the back there, not going to be able to get that this turn. So that's my objectives and my movement. Everything else I was able to focus on killing demons. These Deathcopters swung down here. There's an interesting situation here, whereby most of the demons in the demon deployment zone were dead, but I had a whole load more show up behind me. So Deathcopters backed up and went for the Demon Prince, and he managed to pass all his cover saves despite me getting 3 wounds on him. Then the 2 bike squads and this truck of truck boys with shooters opened up on this demon squad. I only managed to kill 4 out of the 8. They were really rather lucky with their saves, but fair play, they're still up. And this truck shot at these guys and killed another one. Tankbusters had a good turn, managed to blow up the skull cannon, although the way Sam's getting his blood tithe points, he's now up to 8, and I think we're going to see another one of those turn up next turn. And then the only real combats were this over here, where the blood possessed and the fleshhounds finished off the Orc boys mobs they were fighting against there. It was really a foregone conclusion, but the boys had done their job. They killed the Bloodthirster, and the war boss and his mob charged into this squad of Bloodletters. Now this went really quite nicely because the war boss was at the front. All their AP3 hits I was able to take on his 2+ rerollable armour save, so they did a grand total of nothing, and I killed 5 out of the 7. However, they are fearless, so they will stick around for another turn. So that's another 2 points for me, and I'm going to discard secure objective 2. So although things are looking pretty good for the Orcs at the moment, there's still a lot of demons, and there's a lot of blood tide points for Sam to spend next turn. On to Chaos, turn 3. Okay, so a very destructive demon turn there. He keeps wrecking my trucks, he does, them bloody demons, they're wrecking my trucks. So, that was a slightly Suffolk-sounding Orc, but hey. So he had Secure 2, no prisoners, and Secure Objective 1. So Secure Objective 2 was nice and easy. The, what they called Possessed, ran up the building, grabbed that. His shooting consisted of the Skull Cannon, firing, which he, as I predicted, he summoned again, firing at the Tank Busters that had blown it up last turn, and killed 3 out of the 4, and the other ones running off the board. Remaining moves consisted mainly of moving his Bloodletters in position to charge my vehicles, but pulling his Herald back. For some reason, the mighty Herald of the Blood God doesn't want to face off against an Orc war boss. I can't possibly think why, but yeah, he's hiding around the back there. But then the charges were nice and effective. These Bloodletters ran into that truck, battle wagon, wrecked it. They ran into a battle wagon, exploded it, killed 2 of the occupants. Demon Prince and those Bloodletters ran into that truck and wrecked it, killed 6 of the occupants in the explosion. And the Fleshhounds killed, put 2 hull points onto this truck and left it immobilised. So, yeah, all in all, a pretty good turn for the demons in terms of breaking down my transports. The war boss did win his combat in the end, so he's free to do what he wants next turn. That left Sam with 1 point for securing objective 2, and D3 for no prisoners, which he rolled a 3 for. So that was a 5, so 3 total. So he's really back in the game now, but there's still a lot of Orcs around, and the demon numbers are starting to thin out, but it feels like for every one I kill, he summons another one of the bastards. But on to Orc turn 4. Okay, so on to Orc turn 4. Now, this turn started with 3 rather tricky objectives. Secure 5 wasn't too bad, because that's over by the Orc Medical Centre there. But I needed more speed, go faster, and scour the skies. Scour the skies, completely impossible unless he summons a Bloodthirster, and he's not about to do that, so that is going to get discarded. More speed, go faster really would have pulled too many units out of position, so I've left that one. but I did manage to grab 5 with my bikes as they scooted across there. With that dealt with, I just was able to focus on killing stuff. Lost a lot of my trucks, and both of my shooter mobs were pinned, but they did manage to combine their fire to thin out the numbers of the bloodletters. As you can see, these guys here, down to just 2 bloodletters left. They took fire from the shooter boys and also that bike there. Deathcopters and the big squad of bikes fired on the Demon Prince, and between them managed to put 1 wound on him. Not great, but it's a start. And yeah, not a great deal else happened shooting wise. I think I put another wound on the flesh hounds from this truck, and that was about it. But the war boss got into combat and again started butchering his way through another mob of bloodletters. It's always what you like to see, bloodletters getting cut down by mega knobs. They did no damage back, and they're down to just 2 guys who will probably be snipped off next turn. Fleshhounds got an extra chance to attack this truck because it was immobilised, but failed to kill it. So that's still there on 1 wound, and the Fleshhounds are going to have to stick around and deal with that. So that was that. I scored 1 objective point and am discarding 1. Nice straightforward turn, and we are on to Chaos turn 4. So Khorne started their turn with some nice objectives. He had Domination, Overwhelming Firepower, and Big Game Hunter. Skull Cannon opened the turn up, blasting this Orc truck, scoring him, that was that one. I'm losing a lot of trucks down here. That scored him Overwhelming Firepower and Big Game Hunter in a single shot. Now, most of the Chaos forces on this flank just started to move closer in, and the Bloodletters charged these boys in a pincer move, wiped out most of them for only 1 loss in return, but managed to roll a 1 on my mob roll, so I'm sticking around still. Warboss naturally finished off another unit of Bloodletters, so he's free and advancing towards this building. And over here the Demon Prince charged into the boys that were there, killed all of them, but did take a wound on the way in, so he's just down to 2 wounds now. Now, unfortunately for Sam, he wasn't holding score objective 1 anymore, which is a shame because he just scored it there. But he did score his 2 points, and he's chosen to discard Domination because he hasn't got quite enough fast-moving forces left to claim that. But still, the demons did some good damage that turn, but are kind of, apart from the Fleshhounds and the Possessed, all a little bit isolated down in this corner here and being surrounded by Orks. But anyway, let's see what happens as we go on to Orc turn 5. Okay, so for the Orc turn 5, I needed to score Blood and Guts, which is just kill a unit in combat, secure objective 5 again, which is nice and easy, and still had more speed, go faster, which I chucked away at the end of the turn. With limited options for moving, I just shot that bike over there, but moved the war boss and his unit through the ruins to face down against the Bloodletters. Shooting was entirely ineffective. The Dakka Jets and the bikes did force the Demon Prince to make a few cover saves, but he made them all. And this combat here, the Bloodletters fluffed all their attacks. And then I managed to kill 1. So I've won the combat, but they've held because they're fearless. And the War Boss's unit got the charge off, and I was thinking, great, I'm in challenge with the Herald. That's absolutely fine. Herald made his attacks, did a couple of wounds, saved them both with my my War Boss. At this point, hadn't failed any lucky stick rerolls. Killed 4 Bloodletters with the other guys, and then time for the War Boss to swing. Missed with 3 of his 5 attacks. I thought, oh, that's okay. I've got my lucky stick. It's 4 pluses. I got cocky and re-rolled all 3 of them. Failed all 3 of my re-rolls. So the lucky stick that's been doing me so much good this game has ended up killing my war boss. Did manage to hold in the combat, but did a wound to the 1 surviving Mega Knob in the process. So yeah, that's Slay the Warlord. So that could change things here. I was really thinking I'd cut down that Herald, but the dice have been against me, and I shouldn't have got so cocky. But game could be ending soon. We're on to Chaos turn 5. Okie dokie then, so what could potentially be the final Chaos turn? And Sam had Supremacy, so he just needed at least twice as many objectives as me. and then he had secure objective 3, which was over here by the wrecked battle wagon, and behind enemy lines get units into 12 inches of my table edge. Right, so what happened? Fleshhounds ran over here from over there, trying to get closer to this general fight here. The other Fleshhounds attempted to charge the bikes and lost one of their number on the charge and then fluffed the charge. So that's less than ideal for them. But this unit of Bloodletters finally finished off the boys they'd been scrapping with. So that's them freed up, and that's a kill. Demon Prince charged out from the ruins at last and smashed into the Deathcopters, wiped them all out. Good work there, lads. That's Deathcopters dealt with. And down here, the Herald got in a challenge with the big mech and killed him. Meganob managed to kill one more Bloodletter in revenge and hold on his leadership check. But things have really swung away from the Orks now. It was looking pretty good, but now we're actually behind 11-8 on points, and this could be the end of the game. So let's roll to see if we carry on or not. It's a 1. Game ends. Chaos victory. Good game, sir. Well done.
So that means the Orks are knocked out?
Yep, the Orks are knocked out of the tournament, and Chaos go through to the next round. Winner of this game will play the winner of Sam's Orks against my Space Marines, which we'll hopefully be playing early next week. Yeah, so the Orks had a really good start there. We were on top of things, but then it just got away from us, and I think losing my War Boss there was a big mistake. I should have only re-rolled 2 of those dice, and that would have made a big difference there. I'd have had that Herald in combat, and then I'd have Slay the Warlord instead of you, and then I'd have chomped through the rest of that unit, and yeah. So that was big. Other than that, again, Khorne Daemonkin just proved to be a really resilient army. You think you've got them on the back foot, and then more stuff gets summoned. For example, that Skull Cannon. I killed it once, and it just comes straight back the next turn. The Bloodletters themselves didn't do a great performance. They were a little bit of fodder for the War Boss, really, but they held him up for long enough. Yeah, on the whole, I think both armies did pretty well. Orks once again proved that shooting just really isn't their thing, but they were nice and fast and able to get to their objectives.
No, you dominated me on shooting. I mean, you only had a couple of guns, but shooting-wise, you did control the board most of the game. I mean, your bikes got very static and just sat there.
Yeah, so the bikes, because I kept drawing objective 5 and their targets were nearby, were just able to sit around, which seems a strange way to use a fast attack choice, but it was working for me. They did pretty well. The trucks down here, obviously they all got wrecked in the end and all the boys died, but they took a Bloodthirster with them, so kudos to them for that. That was nice, taking down a Bloodthirster. Although, in hindsight, I'd have rather been able to get my Tank Busters into position to take him down. But, hey,
at the start of the game, I specifically went out of my way to make sure Tank Busters weren't anywhere near my Bloodthirster.
A very wise choice, I think. A very wise choice.
And those Tank Busters are lethal.
So, well played, Sam there. He isolated the threat and was able to deal with it. So, I hope you guys like this battle report. And join us again, because we've got 6 more of these to come.